preseason has concluded, and the Mariners will have their season opener on Thursday. Jamal Adams could return, and the Kraken are completely dead in the water. Welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Sports Show, where we love Seattle Pro Sports. I'm your host, Mikey, and we have quite a few things to talk about today. Oh, wrong thing I brought up here. Let's start this out with the Mariners, because they are getting ready to start the season on Thursday. That will be the Mariners opening day, and I'm excited for this team. Okay, I think this team is going to be good this year for all that happened throughout this offseason, especially what they put us through at the beginning of the offseason. You know, Jerry DePoto, Justin Hollander, they were able to work their magic, and they put together a good team given the restrictions that they were under and what they had to do to make this good team. They got us here. They got us to a good roster. Okay, I think overall this team is better than last year's. I think we do have a longer lineup. I am excited that we have an actual DH to begin the season. We have such a strong pitching rotation. I mean, if you saw like MLB rankings lists that they were putting out the other day, they had Mariners as the #1 rotation in baseball heading into the season. Now, that could change at any moment. We know how arms are for pitchers. They are just making an unnatural motion as hard as they can. You know, dozens and dozens of times every game. Bryan is somebody that came up here last season and pitched more than he ever has before. You know, and at points in last season, the arm wore out, and we are at that point in this season already. Bryan is placed on the IL to begin the season with elbow inflammation only. Thankfully, they did their MRIs, found no structural damage, so he's just going to be shut down for a very short time. It's going to miss 1-2 at most starts. Emerson Hancock has been called up and put into that situation now, so he will start out the season with Bryan on the injured list. Now, if it stays a situation where they caught it early and he felt his elbow getting sore, so they just decided to shut him down, and he'll be back in a game or two, then you're not going to feel bad about it. You're just going to be thankful that they made that decision, they got to it early, and hopefully that's going to set him up for success throughout the rest of the season, you know, and keeping that arm healthy throughout the rest of the season, because we need it. Quite frankly, I mean, at that point, again, we got Emerson Hancock in there, so we're already tapping into the depth. We don't want any more of these pitchers getting hurt right at the beginning of the season and have to be testing our depth already and getting those arms tired, you know, so early in the season already. But I mean, come on, we're talking Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, Ty France, Jorge Polanco. We got J.P. Crawford, Mitch Haniger, Mitch Garver. Come on, I mean, this team this year, I'm feeling it. I think this team is gonna be in a situation where they will get themselves back into the playoffs this year. You know, they made it 2 years ago. They missed it last year, just barely. And I think they can get back in this year because that pitching rotation is so strong. That bullpen is strong right now and is going to get even stronger as arms get healthy. Uh, yeah, I'm feeling this season. Now that we're getting so close, I'm getting really excited to be watching baseball every night. I either watching baseball or listening to baseball on the radio. Um, it it's gotten to me to a point in my life where I usually don't miss a baseball game. Usually, I either catch it on TV, or I catch it on the radio, or sometimes it's a combination. I watch some of it on TV. I listen to some of the game on the radio. However, it works out. I always try to take in every game throughout the season nowadays. When I was younger, when I was a kid, um, I miss baseball games all the time. But these last I don't know. I mean, I don't know. At one point, I guess it was when the Sonics left. It only took a short time for baseball to move into my second favorite sport, and I've just been consuming it more and more and more ever since that happened. And it really has become my second favorite overall sports out of all the major sports. So yeah, so I'm getting really excited, and I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think this team's going to make the playoffs this year? I think this team has what it takes to make the playoffs. I think Julio is poised to have a big year. He's coming off of that sophomore slump where he finished fourth in MVP voting, and I think his third year. He had that. You have a splash in your rookie year. Nobody's ready for you yet. People were ready for Julio in year two, and that would cause him to be a little bit more streaky, right? But it's year three. He's cut out all the distractions. And he's just looking better than ever, right? So I think he's going to be part of that MVP race, and we're going to need it to be that way because if he is doing that good, that means the Mariners are going to be doing good. All right, so yeah, let me know in the comments how excited are you for opening day? Are you going to watch? How are you going to watch? Is it going to be on TV? Are you going to the game? Let me know. Okay, so let's go ahead and we can transition over here to the Seahawks. I kind of teased the potential return of Jamal Adams. So let's talk about that today. John Schneider, Mike McDonald, they were at the owner meetings, at the league meetings today. They both were there. They both spoke. There's quotes. A lot of things in there. The one I mentioned, yeah, Jamal Adams potentially returning. Mike McDonald said that they keep in touch with them, and if the right situation were to occur, they would love to bring him back and use him as a linebacker. John Schneider even has recently mentioned that, yeah, they would like to, if the situation was right, have Jamal Adams back and have him playing linebacker. That they always envisioned him as a weak side linebacker. It never really, worked out that they were able to put him into that position consistently to really call him that linebacker. But now you're talking about just got cut out, had all that dead cap. Are you able to bring him in on a cheap deal or even a minimum deal and have him compete for a linebacker spot? And he really is a linebacker. You just look at the size of him. Whatever his official weight listing is, that's not accurate. He looks bigger than whatever it was that they had him listed at, and which is already not far off of what modern day linebackers are now. Anyways, you see so many linebackers these days that are like 230, 225, 228, 229, who are less than 245 pounds. It's very common to see linebackers these days 230. So yeah, Jamal Adams would fit in that mold and be interesting to see him in that position. They also, in these meetings, Sam Howell got brought up and how they like him as a prospect going forward. They talked about the defensive line and how they feel like they got a lot of good depth there now at this point with the re-signing of Leonard Williams, signing Jonathan Hankins, and already having Draymond Jones, Jaron Reed, and the rest of that defensive line group in there. Mike McDonald saying he's feeling like they're going to be really strong up the middle this season. So yeah, that's something to be excited about. They did mention that offensive line, especially the guard position, is still a work in progress. They would still like to sign somebody in free agency to help out in that role and compete for a starting job. Again, we know that they would like to go into the draft next month and be as close as they can to being a complete team. John Schneider says he does not like to enter the draft with any clear, obvious needs. I think we do still have that with this roster. It's still clearly obvious that we need interior offensive linemen. So we'll see if they do much more to address that before the draft. We know that on Over the Cap they have updated things, and it looks like at this point the Seahawks only have about $2 million left in free agency in cap space. But again, there's so many things that can be changed. That can change that to open up cap space so quickly. I mean, you got to remember they tendered a couple of players that they could just go ahead and remove those restrictions from them and release those players, and that's like I believe both players that they tendered. I want to say they were each tendered at around 3 million each. So each one you release, that's 3 million right away there. And again, any trades that might happen or restructuring and extensions that could happen, we just know that they are not done, and they know that they're not done. They know they're not complete, and hopefully that gets addressed even before the draft, so they can go into the draft with that draft strategy of saying we just want to pick the best athletes and best football players available, and not be overreaching and overpaying for a player. All right, so that's kind of what went down there. They did mention the future of Geno Smith as well. And again, I think they just really cemented the idea that he is the starter this year. And, we'll see what the future looks like after that with Smith, Howell, both on the team next year. And we'll see how Geno Smith plays this year, and what kind of quarterbacks may fall to them in the draft if they just still decide to go that way or whatever. But it's clear that Geno is the starter until he's not, just like they said in a previous statement. Right. There's your Seahawks. We will still be doing those mock drafts like all the time. I think we've done 20 of them so far. People are loving them. I'm loving all the feedback that I'm getting on those. So keep it up. Let's see here. We talked Mariners. We talked Seahawks. Let's talk some Kraken, I suppose. Not that I really want to, given how bad they have been. But let's talk a little bit. I don't have their thing up. But anyways, let's talk a little bit of Kraken. They went on an 8-game losing streak. The night I'm recording this, they did beat the Ducks 4-0, and so I mean, good for them for not completely folding. Uh, you know, all the rest of the games at the end of the season here. Um, you know, a win like that, maybe that saves a Dave Hackstall. Maybe that saves some other players on this roster. I don't really know because even though they get the win, they still have been horrible. Most of the time, they look like they have just given up on the season, and with that, I don't know if that's such a bad thing. I mean, at this point, we're like what, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we're the fourth. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're tied for fifth worst in the league, right? And again, I'm no hockey expert, but when I watch the way these drafts have been going since I've been following the Kraken, it seems like every year the top of the draft is really good, right? Like the NHL does a really good job of scouting players and recognizing which players are going to be successful at the professional level. It's not like the NFL, right? The NFL, there's so many factors that play into whether a player has success at the professional level or not. And I do think scouting is a big part of that. But in NHL, whatever it is, again, I'm no expert, so I don't know if it's just because the scouting is so good or because the players that are thought to be at the top of the class, they really are just that much more better than everybody else. But it seems like often those top picks are a success. So at this point, as a Kraken fan, and I hate being in this type of situation, but and even feeling this way, but I feel like the Kraken just go ahead, lose. Lose as much as you can here in the last however many games are left now. What are we at? 14 games left? No, less than that even, I think. Anyways, somewhere right around in there. However many games are left. Just about a dozen or so. But yeah, just go ahead. Keep yourself in the best draft position as possible. Get one of the best players in the draft and keep building that farm system and start bringing up some of these young players. I mean, with as bad as things are going, you'd think they'd bring up even more of them at the end of this season to kind of get some experience. They still, are not doing that with like Shane, right? I didn't actually watch tonight's game, so I don't know if I'm pretty certain I never heard anything about Shane Wright getting called up yet or anything. So yeah, it doesn't look like it. So so yeah, I mean, get those guys some experience, get them up here. I want to see them. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah, this team needs to do something. That's the problem I think that I have an issue with the most is this team and their future, because I don't know what their identity is. Do you know what their identity is? Do we even know what they want their identity to be? I mean, I can tell you the Mariners, they are built on pitching. That and they build their team around that. Ideally, the Seahawks, their identity, they want to be a defensive minded and balanced football team. And look what they did. They went out, they got the Sean McVay of defense to be their new head coach. They went out and got like one of the top offensive coordinators in college. They're doing things that build towards that identity that you expect a Seahawks team to have. I am not even clear what the Kraken's identity is going to be. I mean, I had a lot of fun last year watching the Kraken make the playoffs, but yeah, this year was a slog. And again, just as a casual hockey fan, I am struggling to figure out what this team is even all about or what they want to be about. I mean, if you're out there and you're a Kraken fan and let me know, because I'm searching for that answer, and I fear that the Kraken may still be searching for that answer as well. And maybe we got lucky and got that 1 year of playoffs, but maybe it's still going to be a while before we see this team have consistent success if they don't know what their identity is or what they want it to be, and aren't doing anything to work towards that. Okay, so there's some Kraken for you. We got a little bit of Seattle Storm news as well. They went and signed Victoria Vivians. So that gives us some depth at the guard position. So I mean, you can't feel bad about it, right? I mean, we're talking about a former number 8 overall pick. She's got 5 years of experience. Only averaging 7.5 points, 3.2 rebounds, and 1.5 assists per game. But she has been playing, on that Indiana Fever team, which is not good. Maybe they're, and they were obviously willing to let a guard go because they have the number 1 overall pick, and Caitlin Clark is coming to the NBA, so that's clearly where they're going to go. But I mean, if we can get, somebody was, at one point thought to be, was thought going to be pretty good, and when season did have 9.8 points per game, 3.6 rebounds a game, and 2.4 assists per game. If you can get her, kind of playing, closer to that level, then yeah, you'd love to be having that come off the bench, behind Jewel, and Skylar, but yeah, I think that's a good depth piece that we got there. And I think that covers everybody that I wanted to cover in this episode. We just talked about the Sounders and the Rain the other day, when they had their games. So we're caught up on everybody. I kind of wanted to get in here and do a regular episode, catch up on the news. Everybody get hyped up for that Mariner season upcoming. Let's go. I think this is a playoff team. I was hearing, there's this is another season where it seems like a lot of people are really feeling this roster, even more so than last year's roster. And a lot of people felt like, Seattle had, they were one of the teams that people were like seeing. They were saying, hey, you could potentially, you look at this roster and you can imagine that team being, in a World Series. And you're hearing a lot of the same this year. Okay, so I'm excited about as this again. As frustrating as it was to get through the off season, especially in the beginning, we got through it. I know everybody's talking about the comments that John Stanton made on King 5, and just we're not idiots, but that John Stanton and the rest of that ownership group, they're super duper rich, right? So they're gonna talk to us like we're idiots. They're gonna act like oh well, we don't make the decisions on who gets traded, and we let Jerry DePoto and Justin Hollander handle all that. That's their decisions. Well, why are they making those decisions, John? Hmm? Tell us. Tell us, Mr. Stanton, why are they making those decisions and going about it that way? Because of the restrictions you're putting on them. He tries to go on and say, "Oh well, we're actually spending we have spent a little bit more on the roster at this point than we did last year." Well, that's not the point. And he tried to make it sound like, well, people are saying that it was going to be less, but we've actually spent more than we did last year. But everybody knows that that's not what we were talking about. Everybody was expecting, and you can off of comments that have been made by Jerry DePoto, by Justin Hollander, by a Scott Service, you can infer that they have all felt like, yeah, they were not given the resources they thought they were going to get this year. So it's not that they are spending less; it's that they are spending less than they thought they were going to get to. That's the point. That's like somebody telling me months ago, hey, on March, I'm recording this on March 26th. So on March 26th, I'm going to give you $100 to go to the store and buy whatever you want. And then, when March 24th came around, they were like, well, I know I said I was going to give you $100, but you know what? Last year, we only spent $80 at this time, so now I'm gonna give you 85. It's still more than we spent last year, but it's just not as much as I was gonna give you. So that's basically what he's trying to pull here. Like, hey, we're spent $5 million this year than we did last year, so we're not doing less. Well, it's less than expected, especially for how often fans show up to these stadiums. They subscribe to the network, all this stuff, right? Buying the merchandise, buying the concessions, for as much money as that team makes, and then for the people in charge of actually building the team having less money than they were expecting to build this roster. Yeah, it's disappointing. But again, overall, I don't want to dwell on that too much, because overall, I think the people who are in charge of making those roster decisions that he talked about did a really good job of making those decisions and putting a good roster on the field, even with having to make all the other moves they had to make that we weren't happy about as fans to get it done. So yeah, I don't want to dwell on it, but yeah, I just don't like the way he tried to play it off as if we were all stupid and that we were not going to understand that he was trying to pull a fast one on us and make it sound like, oh well, I don't make any of the decisions, even though it's his money and the ownership's group money that is getting spent. Anyways, I'm excited for the Mariners. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's get into the playoffs. Let's get to the World Series this year. Let's finally do it. We're hungry for it. Let's go. But yeah, that is going to be the episode. So make sure you hit that like button. Let me know what you think about everything going on. You want to see the Mariners, or do you believe the Mariners will make the playoffs this year? Do you think Jamal Adams could be back? Would you want to see him back? And would you want to see him at linebacker if he did come back? And let me know, Kraken fans, what do you feel about this season overall, and the future of this team? Okay, and again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on a podcast version, please follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and leave a written review, because it helps the show. And thanks for listening to the Seattle Sports Show, where we watch Legends Awaken. So take cover, because with this sea of sound, you will see us rise to reign supreme and win forever.